All right, we'll carry on with our council meeting. So I'll call the meeting to order. We have no one excused, and we need to adopt the minutes from July 8th, or amend them, or whatever. Anne-Marie moves for their adoption. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Call for post-agenda items. I'm aware of one in-camera item, which should be intermunicipal relations. And we do have an in-camera item at 11:45, item 7.3, with the Switch Power Corporation, right before lunch. Anything else about the agenda? Of course, delegations at 10:45 and at 11 and 11:45. So, Tracy?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Tracy? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. We are at question period. Susan, if you are there, do we have anyone online waiting?
We have 6 people viewing today, but I have no questions that have come up yet.
Thank you. And of course, if they do, you can let us know.
For sure.
Okay, looking at our agenda then, we will skip through item 7 and 8 and move to item 9, administrative business, the tax sale that we always work on. Is Shannon coming, or can we just go ahead with this?
I can take it.
Yeah.
So this is standard. We are legislated to hold a public auction. Shannon has prepared the list there and is just looking for a motion to proceed with the details that she has there in that motion.
Questions? Wayne?
Just remind me, now I see the reserve bids on some of these properties. What happens if, say, we get half a bid on it, or we don't even accept if they don't meet the reserve?
Right, it has to meet the reserve at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If not, a motion to approve the date. Brian? Oh.
No, I make that motion. Thank you.
Okay. Brian has made the motion for November 23rd at 10 a.m. in the County of Newell building with cash or certified check. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Item 9.2 is policy review. Just some cleanup items, I would think. Matt?
Yeah, so I'll take it away on the personnel policy updates. We had this on our list of strategic priorities to look at this year. So management team has completed a review of the personnel policy and are recommending some changes for council to consider. There's a summary of the significant deletions and additions. We're always trying to shorten and make things more concise, so we've gone down from 25 pages to a 21-page policy. And that's with rolling a policy into this one, so we're happy that we're getting a little more concise. So things that are removed, we have a health and wellness allowance of $100 that is provided to staff each year. You can subsidize a membership at the gym or a fishing license, things like that. Our benefits program now also offers a flexible spending account that's in place, so we're just looking at streamlining that. We'd roll that $100 in so staff don't lose that benefit. It just gets rolled in with the flexible spending account, and we don't have to administer that anymore. It goes to our benefits provider to take care of, and we'd make that take effect at the beginning of the new year. Additions to the updated policy. So item 6, Code of Ethics, representation, just making it clear, you know, what our expectations are for employees and engaging with the media. Normal hours of work. So this is a bigger one for council to consider. Typically, I think in the past, whether it's November or December, administration always brings an RFD for council to consider. Are we going to close at noon on Christmas Eve? Or are we going to close at noon on New Year's Eve? So we're looking at, let's just standardize that and remove an item from our agenda. So what we're proposing is a standard close at noon on Christmas Eve, and then closing the office to the public between Christmas Eve and New Year's. It's pretty scant around here during that time anyways. It's not a high volume for any kind of business that we have going on. We thought it would free up some time for others to take vacation at a high demand time. And so the hour and a half that council provided to staff on the 24th and the 31st, we're now just putting all on the 24th, and then staff would take vacation time or flex time in the closure period between the 24th and the new year. 10.5 attendance, just adding some expectations similar to those in the QP agreement, things that really should not need to be said, but you need to say them. Show up to work on time, ready to go. Scheduling changes, just making it clear that everybody's schedule is subject to change. Supervisors have that ability under employment standards, so we just want to put that in front of staff so they know. Leaves of absence. We had a lot of language in the previous policy that redefined things in full multiple times. So here we're just saying the county will always follow at least the minimum standards, and then anywhere where we go beyond minimum employment standards, we unpack that. And we encourage always employees to get together with human resources before a leave so that they're clear on what the job protected leave is all about. That's a pretty big section of employment standards, and it's not always clear what you're entitled to. On bereavement leave, we've tried to clarify, and this really came out last year with COVID, when there weren't funerals, but we had staff who lost loved ones, and there's still a grieving process. But the way that the policy read, it made it sound like you needed to attend a funeral. So we've clarified that there's a base amount of bereavement leave that you get paid, and if there is a funeral, there's additional time available for if it's out of province or in province kind of thing. So just to make it clear that you don't have to attend a funeral to be entitled to that paid leave to grieve. And then use of the county shop, we just rolled that in to the policy. There was a separate policy for that. So retirement gifts, looking at knocking that down from 15 years to 10. We think if you've given a decade of your life to the county and you retire, we'd like to recognize that. And then the long service reward. There's not a lot who stick around for 40 years, but we have been lucky at the county to have some really good long-serving employees, and so we just bumped up that grid there. I think that's the lion's share of the significant items there. Probably the biggest one, which would be a change, is that standard close on December 24th and then close to the public for between Christmas and New Year's, if that makes sense to council.
Council. Clarence.
Well, I'm really happy that you brought that in, because I was in here between New Year's and Christmas, and I thought, why are we open? So I think it's well worthwhile doing that, as well as a half day rather than an hour and a half, because an hour and a half extra on Christmas Eve doesn't mean a lot. So I'm certainly in favor of those two things.
Tracy?
I'd just like to make the motion to approve the policy as presented.
Approve and rescind. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Moving on also to item 9.3, further policy review items.
Yeah, so we don't need to spend a ton of time on this one. As part of our policy review, which is ongoing, there's two policies identified that I think Council's in a position to rescind. One being the outdated fire truck donation policy, where we used to give $50,000 when we were in a different arrangement. We've now got a long-term capital planning program for fire apparatus under the restricted surplus policy, and cell phone free driving, which the 2011 policy was an update from 2008 when this was new technology. We didn't have the distracted driving laws in place that the province now has. I don't think it comes as a surprise to anyone these days that eyes have to be on the road and you don't talk on your phone unless it's with hands-free. So not earth-shattering items here, but we can, shorten our list of policies by a few more here.
Kelly?
Motion to approve as recommended.
Okay.
Rescinding.
So we're rescinding both policies. Any other comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Taking us to Councillor de Jong, request for decision and the HEMS review. Brian, I'll hand this over to you. You obviously had some comments, opinions, feelings. Take it away.
Thank you. I asked this to be put on at our last meeting, and I don't really have a request for decision. I think this is an information item that is pertinent because of the fact that we do provide some funding for HALO and for STARS, and based on the HEMS report, it may impact that type of funding. I don't know if everybody had the opportunity to read through it, but it's looking like the recommendation is more towards having a one-stop service provider for helicopter emergency service. And so I'm not sure where that's going to end up with the people that are passionate about HALO. I'm not trying to suggest that that's not important, but based on the report, isn't going to impact us at the budget time. And, is council prepared if they do still support HALO that we either up that and go against the recommendation? So I'm open to whatever the discussion takes place, but I guess I actually appreciate the way the report was and support the way their recommendations lean. I know maybe that's selfish because my area does not get impacted by HALO. I know there's parts of the county that do, but I think when you look at the data, it is pretty clear to me that the service that's provided is somewhat, it doesn't reach the same standards that STARS provides. And in order to get to that level, the costs become pretty insurmountable, especially if it's going to be, funded primarily by municipalities, which I know there's municipalities, Cypress and 40 Mile, that do support it to a great extent. But what is the future of it? I think the writing's on the wall.
Thanks, Brian. Wayne.
Brian, what do you think if if they go the way it's recommended, do you think Stars will step up and give the coverage that Halo is now providing down in the southeast here? And can they? Because you made points before that if they moved out of Calgary and moved further east, it would be a lot easier for them to make that coverage. Do you think that's going to happen if this goes forward?
Great question. I don't think I'm qualified to really give you that answer. In reading the report, it sounds like they would move more towards a combined service, a ground ambulance and a helicopter. So the helicopter may be able to reach those farther destinations. They wouldn't just be able to transport that patient back to a Calgary or a major trauma center. They would have to, coordinate with a ground ambulance in order to do that. That was my interpretation. I don't know if others read something different, but I think that's probably the model they would go to. There might be over time where what you mentioned about moving out of the Calgary becomes an option. It's not mentioned in the report, so I can't assume that they will or they won't.
And I don't think this report would be something that would excite the Halo people at all.
I just wanted to, again, repeat that, is council at a time going to be faced with a Halo delegation sitting in front of us asking for $200,000 or $250,000 a year? That's the thing that I think it's going to come down to if Halo is to survive. Because I don't think in today's economics the donations are there. I hope and that changes, but I think reality, you have to face the reality that you're dealing with today. And to support 3 systems in the province, unfortunately it's probably going to cost some lives. That is unfortunate, but as we all know in rural Alberta, where you live dictates how soon an ambulance can be at your doorstep, or if there's an accident, it doesn't always. We don't always have access to the timeliness that other urban areas benefit from, and that's like myself, I don't live far from but I know like Reeve Douglas and Clarence, you both live quite far away from a major ambulance, and you love those places, and those are the commitments you've made to live there and enjoy that community. But sometimes you have to make those decisions that maybe you're going to be 40 minutes or an hour away from an ambulance rather than 15 minutes. And it's sort of the same way with Halo or with the helicopter emergency services. It'd be great to have it quick when you need it, but those are the decisions we all have to make in rural Alberta.
Any other thoughts? Brian has presented, I think it's good to keep this in mind, because this is exactly what will happen, because I believe that the Southeast people who are affected by this will not want to let it go, and that's understandable, but there will be costs. No thoughts? No? Clarence?
Well, we're kind of caught in the middle.
Yeah.
And, I think for years, we're the furthest away from the center of Calgary. But for years, that was an acceptable solution. I mean, we knew that we were just on the edge of being served. Can you hear me now? Okay. I'll try to eat this mic a little more. And so I don't think it'll be a major difference for us if our dollars all go to Halo rather than to Stars rather than to Halo. But you also feel you know, have you got an obligation to some of your neighbors? And I don't know where the answer to that is, but certainly I think our county as a whole can be served by stars. And so maybe in an economical sense, that's where we should be looking.
Yeah, we're in a different position, certainly, than further south and east. Hubie.
Last August, we had a fundraiser in Seven persons with an auction for Halo. It was an all-day auction out in the hot sun, but not a lot of money flowing, and it was tough sledding all day to get people to bid. And that was right there in their area in Seven persons. So that was last August. And now they have a heifer raffle that's going on, and it's a little over half sold out, but it's been going on for quite a while, so that's not sold out yet either. So it's a lot of time to get the funds together, and they're not getting them together. Yep.
Yeah. Well, hopefully STARS will work to come up with some solutions, you know, or to improve service, or to make a difference to the places that aren't served as well, if it's possible to serve them better. And I'm sure there's usually things that can be improved. Kelly.
I just want to reiterate what you've heard me say before. I struggle with collecting dollars to donate to somebody. As a ratepayer, if I want to donate, that is free will. And so where is the balance? Is it our responsibility as a municipality to gather donation dollars to go to services to nonprofit organizations? So that's a really tough discussion for me. I can receive a tax-deductible receipt that I can use at year-end as an individual, where if I'm donating through my tax dollars, that's gone. So I really struggle with collecting dollars for donation.
Anything else? Traditionally, we have supported both, and different rates. And I think that has probably been appreciated by both groups. So, as Brian says, it's an interesting discussion going forward. Wayne.
Yeah, we're having this discussion today, but we also have to deal with, this is a provincial government report, so they might not implement this for 3 or 4 or 5 years. So it's good to have a discussion, but we might not be facing this problem for some time to come. We might have to keep funding both organizations, because who says the government's going to all of a sudden implement this for next year? I doubt that'll happen.
Right. All right, good discussion. And we will move on to Todd's slot in the time schedule, 10:45, Ag Services Business. I know he's a busy guy today, so we gotta keep on schedule. Item 8. Welcome.
Good morning. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day so far. It's mostly smiles, and Marie not so much, but this is still being broadcasted live, isn't it? All right. Sorry, Anne-Marie. All right, so we'll start off with the really good news, which is our Ag Service Board report. I think I'm going to try to stay relatively focused to what I have written, because I usually go off of that and talk myself into circles, so we'll try to not do that today. But I think a stark reminder of what Mother Nature can do to us. Last year, lots of rain. This year, nothing. And I do kind of plagiarize my old reports in that I steal the ideas from previous years on the topics that we want to talk about. And it's amazing when you do that, you find the differences from the weather patterns, because some year we're fighting lots of weeds, and some year we're fighting no weeds, and some year we're still full bore Hamlet. And anyways, for me, it's interesting. Maybe I should do a comparison one day for you guys before you leave, and it'll be fun. Anyways, we did get it was a really big struggle getting rolling on spraying this year. Lots of wind in June, and then the heat came in, and it was really tough to get a good spray day in, a full spray day anyways, which in May and June we need all of the spray days. But the guys did complete about 90% when I was writing this, and I think they're about done the roadside spraying now. We had 1 week there where they ran, I think, 4 12-hour days, and that's a really good week. So we're down the south side of the county. They're doing some touch-up work and some of the dirty roads in the north. Kim and Howard both took a little tour to make sure they had got what they wanted to get. Road top spraying, again, a long process, no different than shoulders. I think the benefit of being involved in so many different projects is there's always something that can be done, whether it's too hot or too windy. There's always another thing that can be accomplished. Roadside mowing is really doing well. They're down the north half. They're in the south. We actually had to bring them in for a week to kind of let the sprayers catch up, which was nice because we had a few things that we weren't getting to. So they did move south on the 15th of July, and I think they're hoping to be done that mid-August. So we're probably only a couple weeks away from them being wrapped the full first pass. And we don't expect a ton of regrowth in the south this year. The north is already growing high enough that we could make a good second pass. But the south, we're not expecting a whole bunch, and we will be probably rigging up at least one water truck to follow the sprayers around. With Catherine being away, we did bring in an extra VMT position. The 5 of them, they're very well trained, they're very ambitious, and they're doing good things. We do have 3 experienced operators, and there's a lot of moving pieces with weed control, especially with the amount of contract work that we do in all the different areas, and it's nice to have them. Yeah, because they, like I say, they don't only do weed inspecting, they also do most of our work, our spraying work for us as well. So with the heat, we made the decision to try and get to the river a bit early this year. Typically, we're kind of starting around July 15th, 16th. We were done the river work this year on Tuesday, I believe, of this week. So we, same thing again, the chamomile populations are certainly lower. They're coming back with less bags of chamomile, which is exciting for me, but some of the other weeds are kind of popping up and keeping them busy more in the patch spraying and that kind of thing. But I think that program, I think we should be very proud of the commitment we made to that program. It's been running for, well before I ever got here. I mean, we went from walking it to using canoes to staying overnight for weeks and weeks and doing that. And now we've got it down to, I think it was 5 days this year. And that's something I think we can be proud of. And whether anybody realizes it, I mean, nobody knows you're doing a good job until you stop doing the job at all, right? But I think, especially with weeds. So, rural beautification took place on July the 19th, or sorry, the judging took place on July 19th. Thank you very much, Clarence and Mary Folkerts, for being our judges. Always a hard day. We visited 7 people, and I think the consensus was we wanted to give 7 first place prizes. Just an absolute horrible job trying to pick 3 out of even just 7 is just absolutely horrible. But thank you very much for doing that. So I guess I do have the names. First place was Julius and Marie Snyders from the Castles area. Second place was John and Tina Ketchmark from Bow City. And third place was Brent and Coralie Jacobson from Tilly. So yeah, wonderful day. And absolutely publicly thank Mary Folkerts for being part of it. She was very enthusiastic, and it was great. It was a good day, and I learned a ton about the history of this county. So if you guys have never done that before, absolutely go with Clarence and visit with as many different people that came here in the 50s as you can, because holy moly, that was we visited with one fella in Rainier, and it was awesome. It was fantastic. So anyways, just for the future, check that out. Rental stuff, again, the drills, they never fail to amaze me, the ups and the downs. Last year with the 10 inches of rain, we had guys seeding grass still in July. We did not have those fellas this year. So our rental program was a fair bit down, probably almost 20% on the no-till drills and a few hundred acres on the conventional drills. But the Brilliant, you know, he's still just chugging along. 1993 technology, just rocking 300 acres a year. So we're excited for him, you know. We've invested a lot of money in that guy over the years, but it's, you know, the livestock equipment's still doing its thing. Lots of traps going out. The sprayers, we've had actually some good success with the boomless sprayer. We've had one fella rented it, and he said, "I can't believe you never had this before." I'm like, "Man, we've had this thing for years." He's like, "Well, I never knew about it." And I said, "Well, that's because it hadn't been to your area yet." And he's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "The best advertising for our rental program is when something ends up in an area." So of these 5 rentals, 4 are basically neighbors, rural neighbors, like 5 to 10 miles away. But still, that's neighbors in the rural area. So yeah, so anyways, they had some great success with it, and hopefully it'll receive more use in the future. Emerson Bridge, man, oh man, they have had an amazing year. It's been hot, it's been windy. We've had full weekends almost every single weekend. We've talked before, filled our seasonal sites. The only problem this year, we are going to have troubles filling the dugout for irrigating much farther. I know the guys were trying to fill her up one more time this morning, but the water is obviously the Red Deer River kind of gets a little bit low this time of year. So we have a lot of suction hose out trying to get beyond the sandbar. So I didn't want to be the poor sap trying to fill that irrigation line up. But anyways, thanks Joe, and I think it was Riley that was out there with him today for trying that. Hamlet subdivision maintenance, we're starting to slow down now. Obviously, anything that doesn't have irrigation is basically at a standstill. A few of the kind of deep-rooted weeds probably still going to poke their heads up, but otherwise not too bad. But we do have those teammates working on multiple other projects, like the river, like helping out with surveys, that kind of jazz. So still lots of stuff to do. And then I think that just to talk the soil erosion conversation, still continuing pretty regularly, still having, when you run into people, you introduce yourself, it's, "Oh, you're that guy that sent the letter." So that's kind of nice. The advisory committee continues its quest to create the policy. We are kind of done, I would say, the first part of what we think we need to do, and we're upping our frequency of meetings. So we're going to actually meet, I think, weekly for the next little bit, just to try to get mostly accomplished before the harvest season comes up. We've also been in talks with some local producer groups to see if there's things that they can be adjusted in maybe some of their grower contracts that might be a benefit. There's been a ton of out-of-the-box thinking, and for sure far more than me just doing the head scratching. So we definitely have a wonderful area with an amazing agriculture sector, if nobody knew that already. And one of the things that the committee wanted to do was send out an update letter to the same 1,200 people that we sent the first letter to. So we'll stuff all those envelopes next week when Jolene comes back, because I don't know that I can stuff 1,200 envelopes. But yeah, and then kind of coming up right now, actually, they're doing lots of surveys. We are in some potato fields for bacterial ring rot. Fusarium graminearum, probably another couple weeks out. Clubroot they're doing right now, and grasshoppers we do every day it's sunny for about a week. So that's what I got for you. It's a long one in July. We got a lot going on.
Thanks, Todd. Questions? Hubie.
Thanks, Molly. Todd, a sneaky question. When people bring the skunk traps back, how successful are they in catching skunks? Do they tell you?
They probably don't walk up and say, "Yeah, I caught 4," but we usually ask if it worked out for them. Yeah, I'd say normally that works out for them.
Brian?
Grasshoppers, I read an article the other day, west side of Lethbridge is being hammered by grasshoppers. So I'm just curious what you're seeing in the dry land areas, or if you're seeing?
Yeah, I think anecdotally, just from kind of being out and about a little bit, there's more than there has been in recent years. Most of our surveys, probably in the last 5 years, we've been recording 0 to 2 maybe per square meter. And even just walking across my own place, I'm probably in more like that 5-ish per square meter, which is considerably more. And I think that I don't think we're at Lethbridge levels yet, and we're certainly not. I think Manitoba is even having a harder time. I don't think we're at those levels yet. I guess I haven't been everywhere. But yeah, I think the worst part about hot, dry weather, they lay a lot of eggs. So if we have another hot, dry spring next year, we could be in that boat very easily.
Other questions? Todd, I know you have a busy day, and I'm just wondering if we postpone your other item till after lunch, would that work for you? Are you around?
I'm here for you. Yeah, I'll do that. Absolutely. 1 o'clock?
If we weren't live, I'd have a response for that. You're such a nice guy. But yes, I see that our RCMP have gathered, and I know we also have another item at 11:45, and so I'm just thinking that if that would work, maybe it wouldn't take long for that other item, but I think it might. So we'll say 1 o'clock or after that.
No, that sounds fantastic. And just so you know, me and Russ made the burgers this morning for lunch. And I hope you didn't eat any breakfast, because holy moly.
Thanks, Todd. That's negotiable too. All right. We'll have to make sure we accept his report later when he comes back. So we'll go on to our 11 o'clock delegation, which is item 7 of our agenda. And today I know we don't have Sergeant Yatman here, we have Corporal Harms, correct? You've been here before, so yes. I always try to see if there's deer in the headlight looks on people when they approach the table, but you look comfortable, so that's good. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you. And yes, I have been here. That was engaged. So with that said, staff Yatman did prepare the report, so I'll just go through that report, and by all means, if there's any questions, I'll happily answer those. I'm going to start with his narrative report, and basically what he's stating: from April 1st to June 30th, Brooks Detachment responded to a total of 509 rural calls in the rural areas in the county. Detachment members issued a total of 211 violation tickets in that same area. We lodged a total of 60 prisoners, and we issued a total of 69 provincial criminal records checks. We always like to touch on and maybe highlight just a couple of calls that might be of interest to people, and he's definitely done that. Again, this is for the quarter. He's reporting that detachment members received 2 complaints of persons and groups that weren't in compliance with the COVID health orders, and we engaged with those 2 groups. The groups were basically in residences, and when we engage with the COVID non-compliance issues, we always try and educate first and get compliance we always look at enforcement as a last resort unless it's something that's very, very serious and over the top. And in these cases, we were able to do just that, educate and get compliance right away. So that was something we've been dealing with all through the COVID times. And obviously, as we go forward, we hope that's further and further behind us. He's also reporting that we had 3 requests to do quarantine checks. These come from a higher level from health services and the RCMP working together that have identified people or groups that have come into the country from out of country. And obviously, at that time, there's a requirement to quarantine at certain locations. So we would actually get tasked in certain situations to follow up with those people, make sure they're quarantining, and make sure they're in compliance and make sure they understand all of that. So we had 3 requests to do those in the last quarter. We had 9 calls under the Mental Health Act. That's not unusual. We have those every quarter, and they definitely fluctuate. I'll maybe touch on those a little bit because I'll touch on some stats, and that's one I want to touch on. Another interesting one was on June 16th, our officers were dispatched to a call where a 13-year-old child was shot twice with a BB gun. This was north of Brooks, and the members engaged, and of course it is a very serious matter, but they were able to bring the parents together and those involved and actually resolve that without charges and stuff. So could have been a lot more serious. There was no injuries there, but definitely worth touching on. Moving along, just talking about our current staffing levels. We have 3 new members right now that are on staff. They're brand new. They just came out of depot and they're in that field training process. So we always welcome them with open arms, and we're excited to see that. A member by the name of Constable Riley Orr has been identified and is currently transferring to Brooks Detachment to join our General Investigation Section. And of course, the General Investigation Section is the section that does those specialized, often time-consuming investigations. So we're very excited for that. Staff Sergeant Yetman, along with our district, continue to work on our vacancies and make sure we plug those holes as quick as we can. And I did kind of just a quick look. It looks like we have about 6 vacancies right now, which isn't abnormal. And I've also learned from staffing that of those 6, it looks like they've identified 3 members that are currently inbound, so to speak, to fill those. So we're plugging those holes as quick as we can. Probably one of the most exciting things that's happened here recently is on May 31st, we had a new unit start in our detachment, and we refer that to our community policing unit or our community engagement unit. That's headed up by Corporal Argue. It involves Kendra with Safe Communities and our school resource officer, Constable Peters. And there's been basically a call for a long time and a desire to put this together because as we all know, including from media and the things that have been going on in the world, it's important that we engage with our communities and build on that community-based policing, make sure we're educating where we need to educate and so on. And that's kind of their mandate. So we're really excited about that. And to no surprise, they have a full plate right off the bat with a whole bunch of initiatives that they're doing. But that will surely benefit everybody within Brooks, but also within the county, because they've reached out and they're doing some initiatives in the county as well. So we're really, really excited about that. Other than that, the only other point I picked out, and this is not actually documented on the report, is if everyone recalls, last year the Brooks Detachment acquired a patrol boat, and I think that was the first year that we hadn't seen any fatalities on the waters, the local waters, for quite a while. And we finished the year off. There was no fatalities or no serious accidents. I just want to point out that that boat continues to be used this year in the same manner, and it's been out a number of times already. I just grabbed some quick stats just to give you a snapshot. We've made 77 contacts with boaters on the water, 23 contacts with people on the shore, i.e. people launching their boat or people coming up to us to ask us questions. We've made contacts with 4 swimmers out in the lake. We've issued 34 verbal warnings, 1 written warning. We've issued a small amount of violation tickets, all for alcohol, and we've actually escorted 5 vessels to shore for serious violations. That is all in the name of public safety and making sure that the public's out there having fun, and we don't have to deal with any incidents sort of thing. So we continue to be excited about that. I'm going to move along to the stats if there's no questions at this point. Just a quick look at our crime gauge. That's the page that has all the big arrows there. For the most part, those arrows are going the right direction. There is some that are going the wrong direction, the red ones. We're showing 167% increase in person crimes. I'll touch on that in a minute. We show a decrease of 26% property crime, a decrease of 40% with other crime, 16 fewer break and enters, 6 fewer thefts, and we do see a slight increase in theft of motor vehicles, an increase of 3. When I seen that, I wanted to take a quick look at the stat report that was sent to everybody, and the one we most often make reference to is entitled, they're all entitled Brooks Provincial Detachment, but it has Q2-2017 to 2021. That's the report that compares quarters. And so I just kind of sifted through that, and the question I had for myself is, why do we have 167% increase in persons crimes? Persons crimes is defined as things like assault with weapon, sexual assault, things like that. So I looked at that, and if you see on the page, it definitely says that in 2021 we had 11 in this quarter compared to 5 the previous quarter. It's a 120% increase right there. I had a quick look at those files just to make sure I understood that, and for the most part, it's not real serious stuff. Some of it involves some minor domestic violence, and I don't want to understate what domestic violence, but non-injury type violence. There is some child abuse allegations in there. There's even a couple of instances of road rage that ended in assault. So that kind of accounts for why there's an increase there. I next looked at uttering threats, which falls into that category as well, and we've seen a 400% increase in that. We've got 5 this quarter compared to 1 the previous quarter. So I just had a quick look at that. Again, a lot of that, of course, uttering threats is just a verbal threat. A lot of that's related to domestic violence. Some is made over social media. There's with some neighborhood disputes and things like that. I also noticed, looking at the stats, another number that stood out was a 500% increase in fraud. We have 6 this quarter compared to 1 last quarter. And what I mean by last quarter is the previous year. Frauds are an ongoing thing that everyone battles with. For the most part, it's phone fraud, it's computer fraud, things like that. So that just kind of accounts to some of the higher numbers that I've been seeing. The good news is there's definitely a lot of decreases in the area that we like to see, which kind of fall into that rural crime area. Break and enters, a massive decrease, theft under, theft over, possession of stolen goods. We're seeing significant decreases in all of those categories, so we're pleased to see that. Other than that, the only other number that jumped out at me was that mental health number, and of course, Staff Yetman had that in his narrative, that there's, we dealt with some mental health calls. We're showing 175% increase, 11 this quarter compared to 4 last year. Fairly significant, but not surprising. I think all detachments, and probably Sebastian will agree with me, have seen an increase, especially through the COVID times. I think it was particularly tasking and difficult for some people. So we continue to deal with that, and glad to report that we've had, they can be hard to deal with, but glad to report we've had no issues dealing with those calls, sort of thing. And that really summarizes the report. Is there any questions from anyone?
Well, I've often wondered about what you mentioned earlier in your report, is you come across the border, someone's given a 14-day quarantine, and how anyone ever really knows whether they actually do that. And you said you were asked for 3. Have you any idea how many there actually are out there? And is there any other way to check those things?
I'm sure there is. I don't have those numbers here. What I can tell you is from the start of COVID to present, we've been tasked with many of them. And we get those tasks out of it's basically a control center, or we call it a DEOC, which is a command center. And it consists of RCMP and our partners like Alberta Health and the health authorities, the federal health authorities. And they're the ones that identify who needs to be checked on. And what initiates that is often they will do the checks themselves by phone, make sure they understand everything, make sure they're in quarantine. But if a red flag is raised, that's when we will get tasked. And that red flag can be anything from they can't get a hold of the people, they've spoken to the people, and the people have indicated maybe some frustration or that they may not be in compliance. So to follow through with that, all detachments in Alberta get tasked with checking on certain individuals. And again, it's all in the name of public safety. We just wanted to make sure, they're where they're supposed to be and being as safe as possible, sort of thing. And we had fantastic results with all of our quarantine checks. Everybody, I think almost everybody we found was in full compliance. They knew what their requirements were, and there was absolutely no issues at all. So, welcome.
Brian.
You mentioned in your report about community policing, and I just wanted, can you describe how Josh and Kendra how that is rolled out? What's the target, and maybe give me a better understanding about how that
most certainly
works.
It's maybe best understood if we talk about the detachment without that unit. The detachment is very operational driven, responding to day-to-day calls, investigating, trying to do their best to do PR, trying to do their best to educate the public, because education is a key component of policing, right? Because we want to prevent stuff before it happens, but it's most difficult to do. A number of things happened in North America over the last couple of years, including, a call for reform on policing, a call for policing to better understand the communities and so on. So we tied all of that together, and there's more than enough work for this unit to go out, understand our community, meet with our community leaders, to make sure we understand the needs, which I'm going to say we probably understand most of those needs, but not all of the needs. So to make sure that we understand those needs, come back, come up with programs, education programs that will help not only the community, but help us understand the communities and so on. Because again, it's all in the name of prevention and, I guess partnership in a sense, sort of thing. So that work might include actual presentations, and I believe they're doing one today. Right now as we speak, right? Yeah, and Kendra might talk on this more, but presentations is a big thing. It's not uncommon to see that unit out walking around the streets. Right now, they've done that many times. I don't know if it's a daily thing, but it's definitely a weekly thing. And on occasion, you'll see them pulling a wagon with freezies and stuff like that and handing those out to the kids and stuff. And that's all about connecting with the community and, closing that gap that is there, right? So I know one of the big initiatives is the unit is going out to the Bow Slope auction on a regular basis. And it's just to have a coffee with everyone, see how they're doing. Again, making sure we understand their needs. And if we identify needs that they can't address, we'll then, Corporal Argy will bring that back to Staff Yetman and we'll figure out what has to be done. So, so it's just things like that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I guess I love hearing that kind of things because, so this is a personal thing is I think police have been aligned in our society unfairly. And I think this goes a long ways to hopefully Others understanding what you guys deal with. I don't understand what you deal with,
Yeah.
but I think that's one of the struggles I think that's out there, is that people don't understand what you guys deal with on a day-to-day basis.
That's right. And the purpose of that unit too is it's two-way education and understanding. We have to understand the communities, and we also want the communities to understand us, and hopefully we can come up with, you know, the best initiatives and the best policing going forward. So I know one of the components, you know, I'm guilty of not understanding all of the cultures we have in this area, and Corporal Argue's been instrumental in educating the whole detachment about certain cultures and stuff, and it's a real eye-opener sometimes when you just don't know certain things about certain cultures. And you know, the other side of that is you know, the public's being educated on policing. So we're just trying to bring those two together to make sure we come up with the best policing model and that we're most effective. You're welcome.
So Rob, further to that, this community policing group was something that grew from your detachment.
That's
and
right.
Getting their heads together and talking about what could be done.
Yeah.
Perfect.
This unit, we've been, it's been in the making for a couple of years. It is definitely not the sole result of the, you know, public outcry or anything like that. We have been trying to put this together for a couple of years. It's difficult because, you know, we're operating within parameters, but we're able to do it internally with existing resources. And I think it's been a fantastic move. I've supported it right from day one, and you know, we'll support it forever, sort of thing. It's, if any area could use it, we could most certainly use it, and we should be leading that charge, so to speak.
Good work, and I think we all struggle to communicate. It's a big job in life in general, and to understand one another. So it's a logical, wonderful thing to be working on. So thank you. Thank you for that work. All right, we'll let you listen to Bassano now, I guess. Welcome, Sebastian. It's really not that complicated. Look at us. Look at this old people like me, and we can figure it out.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for giving me the ability to build on our report. I further want to build on what Corporal Harm says. I think the community unit is a great initiative by Brooks. The ideal of building trust in different cultures can really help us bridge the gap and understand how to solve crime, as well as we get a lot more people who are willing to come forward. This is my 6th community, and it's huge. So I was really impressed to see Brooks do that. And even for myself, I don't know much about farming. I'm from the city, and just building trust and engaging, now I know a lot more about how to solve that crime. So I just wanted to say that, really impressed and really happy that Brooks has that. So for our report, I know last council meeting I discussed how we have a new form, APP report. I have found out that report will only be ready on the 22nd of the end of the quarter. So in the future, we'll be pushing the report for the next month. But therefore, I just used my old report that I had created in the past. So for community engagement, we had 28 youth engagement sessions, and that's mixed with our Bassano rural crime strategy, which we had spoke about before, is where we have a member who's visiting house to house. At this point, we've almost hit every single rural resident farm property, and in the next quarter, my member will be following up with them to show them what kind of stats and changes has been going on. We've done 9 Bassano crime tips. Luckily, Kendra from Safe Communities in Brooks has partnered with us, and she releases the videos on Safe Communities, so it reaches a lot more, just not all your county renewal residents. It's been very helpful for me as well, not having to do it on my page, as well as being able to get it reached out. That includes our reading programs. We've had 6 of those. For special events, we were able to do the Rosemary Canada Parade. We didn't march, but we did have our vehicles, and all of our members were out there in Surge. And if somebody out there was very hot, so I was very happy there in Surge. I was sitting next to them. We attended the Rosemary graduation, as well as the Bassano graduation. That just had us leading them as well with lights and sirens. We did have a special presentation at the Rosemary School. I'll further touch into that as we get into the major events that is specifically related to our large child pornography file that we had in the area. We will be further doing our annual bike rodeo come Saturday in Bassano. Obviously, for COVID reasons, we weren't able to do that the year prior. As for staffing, Constable Gia, he was our Rosemary delegate, I would say. He is transferring. He got into a specialized unit, but he will be replaced on August 30th by Manveer Singh. We'll be showing a special to all the residents so they can see who he is and where he's from, as well as he'll probably be taking over that area. I'm speaking with him, and he's very excited to be engaged with the community, and he'll be living in Bassano. For the safe roads, we had 4 impaired drivers. One of the major events with that is we had an impaired driver, we believe that was impaired from intoxication of drugs, that nearly killed someone that was parked on the side of the road. We are still investigating that, waiting for the samples. Brooks was very helpful in helping us secure the scene and get the evidence. So we should see results in the next month or two, and we will be laying charges. We gave 99 tickets to motorists over 140 kilometers an hour. We're still starting to see a pickup in speeds, especially from other provinces that are passing through. We had 12 motor vehicle collisions, and I also wanted to highlight, as Corporal Harm said, with the boat patrol, Brooks was nice enough to come to our Crawling Valley Lake and did a huge patrol with some of my members, and I believe they were able to seize quite a bit of liquor, and it was able to just show residents the importance of not bringing alcohol on boats and safety, so I was really happy that they did that. As for crime reduction, we had 138 proactive rural crime patrols. As you know, that's at least 45 minutes in our rural areas. My members have to patrol. We did 95 hotspot night patrols. As stated in previous, these are areas where we've seen an increase in crime, and we're allocated at nights for my members to hit that up. For high priority calls, we had, as you know, we had that child pornography file that actually happened in this quarter in April. We have charged the SOC. We had over 20 victims. A large percentage of the victims were in Rosemary. He has been charged. There was a warrant that was just approved that Constable Gia had written up, where we were able to go on the phone, and we found a lot more. So there'll be a lot more charges coming in the future, probably the next month or two. It is being handled by Special Prosecution out of Calgary. So things are looking good on that end. I can't really comment more on the investigation because it's still going to court. The next one is in April 21st, we had a report of a suspicious person about a vehicle that was in a farm that was leaking gas. We've been really pushing with the crime tips to get people to call on suspicious vehicles. Luckily, they called it in, and our member, actually Constable G, arrived, was able to do a foot chase, and we were able to find 2 stolen vehicles, and with thousands of dollars worth of stolen properties. Large amount of charges were laid. It was actually in the news report, and we're looking for the court date for those 2 individuals. So that was very nice, and we really hope the public continues to do those suspicious calls, because the truth is we wouldn't have known they were there. So that was very helpful. So then the other thing is we are seeing a huge increase in intimate photo scams. We're having youth, especially youth males, who are on social media such as Instagram and Facebook, who are being added by women and who are tricking them and thinking them that they want intimate photos from them. It's almost always males in foreign countries. Unfortunately, these young people some adults too, send these photos, and immediately they try and blackmail them. We have done as many videos as we can, but we're still seeing an increase. Luckily, though, we haven't had one person lose money yet, because they are starting to come to us. We're going to continue in the future to keep pushing that, and that's why we've been talking to the schools. We had the presentation at Rosemary, and come when school starts again, we'll be having a presentation in Bassano. As for the quarantine, we haven't had as much as Brooks. We've only had 4 or 5 quarantine checks since the pandemic started. We did recently have a quarantine breach, and that was because the person got it impaired. So that's how we were able to reach them. Yes. We did have 250 calls for service. We are starting to see an increase from last year, but that's hugely because of the pandemic. We saw a huge decrease in calls during the pandemic. Just just want to make sure. But we did, and I'm pretty happy to say, it seems like our programs are working. We saw a 200% decrease in overall property-related crime from last year's report. Next year's second quarters will be based on the first quarters to see it continuing downtrend. But I'm pretty happy with the guys. They've been working really hard with their hotspots and different programs with some of our integrated crew unit, and that's in district there in Calgary. So they've been very successful in that, so I'm hoping to see that decrease. We did have 5 MHA transports, which is right around what we had last year. Like I said, since the pandemic, we have had it increase. That's really it, unless there's any other questions or concerns.
Thank you, Sebastian. Questions? I just always sit here listening to you guys thinking of how good we have it in our communities with people like you engaged with our citizens. So thank you for the good job you do. And I don't know if we ever talked about how, or if I let you guys know, we wrote a letter to the bosses up there, not God, but close. And yeah, just saying that we didn't want to burden them with having a meeting, but we were really impressed, because we were really impressed with the relationships that we've been able to build and the jobs that you guys have been doing in both Brooks and Bassano for a number of years now. So just thank you. And other questions or?
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it, and your time as well.
Yeah, and I just think when you try to be out there with the people, it works. It truly does. It's time consuming and frustrating and all of those things, but it does work. They do notice. Wayne.
You mentioned mental health issues. Do you think that the public is becoming more open to phoning you guys when there is an issue? Because it used to be people were ashamed of that. And I think that's not getting that way anymore. It's changing. Do you believe that yourself?
You know, I never really thought of that factor, but you're correct. It could be attributed to that. Just like in certain communities I've been, when we started giving more education about sexual health and sexual assault, it would increase because they'd feel more comfortable. So yes, that actually really could be one, because I think the general public, as well as the RCMP, we're starting to give a lot more information that it's not an offense, it's a medical crisis. I do still think in some of our smaller communities, it'd be nice to have more access to mental health, because it's very hard, especially some of them can't afford to travel to Brooks and stuff like that. But yes, I do agree. I think that is probably a factor. I never thought of it. I appreciate that.
If I can jump in on that, I second that. And that is something we've looked at our detachment. Some of our numbers have been climbing over the last several years, and one of those categories is domestic violence. And we believe that educating people to report sooner and involve the police sooner is actually basically a consequence of that. So we're getting more reporting. It kind of skews the stats a little bit, but we are getting more reporting, and sometimes that's a good thing, because when police can get involved sooner, hopefully we can stop things before they escalate and get out of control. So we solely believe that as well.
Does the domestic violence integrated team, or whatever the DIVIT stood for, is that still in effect and used?
The unit is still at the detachment. The position is vacant right now. We do have someone named to come in and take that. And of course, we can't wait for that to happen. In the meantime, our existing supervisors are actually maintaining most of that role. But definitely we need to get that filled so we can, like all the other units, take them to the highest level possible.
All right. We have Kendra also here for Safe Communities and Municipal Enforcement. So we've got some time left for Kendra and John to share. Welcome, Kendra. We have your report.
Awesome.
In our package.
Yeah, I'm getting better at making them a bit more concise. Touching on what Corporal Harms mentioned, we do have our new community policing unit in place now, which is incredibly exciting. From my end of the table, it's extra exciting because even the example I always give is when we would do presentations, public engagement, any kind of appearance with the officers, we always have to preface that that confirmation with, okay, but if they get a call for service, obviously that's their priority, they're going to have to jump out. So with this unit, it's really, really great for us and for the community to be able to plan those concrete things and say, no, like these officers are going to be coming and they are dedicated to this event. They won't, unless there's something really, really severe happening, they won't be pulled from that event, which is really great, especially when there's things like right now, we were doing a presentation for service providers in Brooks about what your rights are, what some common crimes are, what happens when the police comes. And I stepped out to come here and I was able to confidently leave Josh and Sharon there to continue the presentation, knowing that they won't get pulled away from it, which is really, really nice. And having Josh taken off general duty and put on like Monday to Friday regular hours, we're able to flex our hours around those events, which is just really helps expand what we're able to offer to the community in terms of consistency, which is really great. I did in my report touch on the fact that we are doing stuff like the farmers market, which I felt the need to mention because we have been able to reach populations we didn't even anticipate reaching, namely a lot of people that really only come into town for, like off of rural properties for the farmers market. We've made contact with a lot of colonies in our area that really would like the police presence to come out there just to help basically spread safety information and stuff like that that maybe members of their community might not listen to unless it comes from that person, which is, we love helping with that. We love coming out and doing that kind of stuff. So we've seen a lot of success there. And because at one of our last farmers markets, we actually had someone report a missing person, and because of the speed at which we were able to address that at the farmers market, they were actually found within an hour and a half between reporting it to us at our booth and finding them, because we were able to address it there, spread it out to our general duty members, and actually post it on social media. And the person who found the individual that was missing actually credited our social media reports for actually, they're like, I wouldn't have known he was missing unless I saw it on Facebook. I was like, a little pat on the back for us for doing the social media thing. But I wanted to also mention that Corporal Harms, Corporal Argue, and I had a chance to meet with the Gang Exit Community Outreach Services based out of Medicine Hat. So they are southern region of Alberta, and they aren't necessarily a program that we implement, but they were making themselves aware as a resource because we don't necessarily have a lot of problems related to that in our area, but it was really great to know that that is something that we can reach out to. So whether it's a like organized crime like a named gang, or it's just really a group of youth, a group of individuals that we have been noticing that are really committing certain crimes together consistently. We're seeing that kind of theme with it, and there might be someone that has identified them as wanting to get out of that and they're not really sure how. That's when we would refer them to this group, which is really great to know that we have as a resource. Yeah, and the rest of that top half of my report is just kind of touching on the different community events that we're doing. Again, like Corporal Harm said, with our unit, we're able to go and do a lot more dedicated patrols out in our rural area, which is really nice. I know that Corporal Argue is actually a municipally funded member, so he set himself a goal that he wants to do foot patrols on every street in Brooks, and Constable Peters and myself have been going out to places like Patricia and Tilly and Duchess and those ones and trying to do foot patrols there, which have been really valuable as well for engagement purposes. We stop in whenever we go to Duchess, stop in their town hall, kind of touch base, see what they've been experiencing there. And it's, again, I keep referring to what Corporal Harms is saying, but we learn from them just as much as they're learning from us. So those really seemingly small community engagement moments are really helping us inform what we do every day. Only other main thing that I really felt the need to touch on with my report is I am the social media lady. I'm really excited because our social media, namely our TikTok, has passed 50,000 followers this week, and I know that is something that seems a little bit silly to mention, but we've been meeting with police services from other provinces across Canada and stuff like that, and they've been saying how they've been hearing about us. And the one comment we got yesterday that kind of gave us a little pat on the back was that our population here is around 15,000, the city and the county, and give or take a bit, I know I'm off with that number, but 50,000 people on our social media and all of our other, I guess, pages is a whole bunch more than we could have reached foot patrols here. And what Josh likes to call them is when we go on, we can do live videos, being that you guys would see me and you can type in questions and ask. So when Josh does those videos, what you see is his face and you see him talking, and people can type in questions and they pop up on the bottom and you answer them on live for everyone to see. And what he likes to call those is digital foot patrols, because we've been having people from across our county, across our city, and lately across the world. We had some people from Indonesia and Bulgaria and around there tuning in, asking questions about policing in general, policing in Canada. Lots of people asking about Brooks as a community and just saying like, wow, I can't believe you guys have resources like this, because we have all of our first responders on there. And as much as we would look at these and go, well, I know our focus is our area. We're not trying to change the world here, but it's really cool to think that a place as small as us is able to possibly influence that change, because you guys know those events in the last maybe year and a half that have been really, really negative in the maybe casting a shadow on policing in general. And as valid as those negative events were, it's really unfortunate that it cast that shadow on good officers, right? But it had that ripple effect worldwide, even though it happened in that one place. So we're hoping that with what we're doing, it's just happening in Brooks. We're only doing it for Brooks and for the County of Newell and all that stuff, but it's going to have that ripple effect, and it really just reflects really great on the resources we have in our area. And we've been able to have RCMP, we've been able to have county peace officers, city peace officers, bylaw, all that stuff on there, which is just really great. I know I ramble on and on about that stuff, but I'm consistently mind blown with the amount of outreach we've had. We've had a number of officers try and conduct a traffic stop, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, it's a youth, I'm going to catch them for speeding outside the high school, and they know it's going to be a tense traffic stop because no one wants tickets, especially teenagers. And instantly they would go up to the window and the teenager would be like, I saw you on TikTok last week. I asked you a question on the live. And instantly that traffic stop, the whole mood of it has changed, because they are seeing that there's a person behind the badge and that they're really there for their safety, and they're not there just to be the bad guy handing out tickets. But that's why when I included my events at the bottom of my report, I do include those live events now, because we've had police officers and government officials from other areas been tuning in just to check out what we're doing. And really, I think that given the incredible first responders and other representatives we have in this area, it's something to brag about. So I'm really excited that we can do our outreach here and do stuff that's personal to our residents here, but we're able to, can't say it enough, we're able to brag about it to everyone else, and we're influencing other communities to try and do the programs that we're doing, which I think is really, really incredible. But yeah, that is the gist of my report, on top of the regular, just saying that we're on the radio every week. So if you guys think that there's something that the rural residents would benefit from hearing, please always feel free to shoot me an email, whether it's a program idea, it's something that could be addressed on the radio, something that an officer could do in a video. My whole job is about the community, which means that I want all the input I can get from the community, because you guys are going to see a lot more than we can see in our day-to-day. We're not everywhere, right? So if there's ever anything that you think needs to be addressed or could be addressed, I always encourage people to reach out, because I think it's your guys' opinion that it is just as valuable, you know?
Thanks, Kendra. And you should feel proud of what you're doing. And you know what? When it comes to social media, it's wonderful to hear about the good stuff, because truly there's a lot of other stuff that we could all do without. Your number of 50,000 is way bigger too. You're giving yourself more population. It's a smaller group. I mean, 15,000 in Brooks, and we say about another 10 in our Bassano, Dutchess, Rosemary municipalities, and then all the rest of us are the County of Newell. So keep it up, keep working on it. And yes, anything positive these days is always good news. Questions? Love your enthusiasm for it, and the whole idea of the community policing just makes so much sense. It's funny how our world takes so long to sometimes get to that sense thing. But
I think
John, whoops.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think people are catching on that people are a lot less inclined to offend against a community that they feel a part of, and part of that is the police making themselves a part of the community. And I think that I'm very excited that we can have this in our community, especially considering there are bigger cities than us that still don't have one. So it's a pretty incredible asset to have.
Well, we're special.
Oh yeah,
we're unique. We've always known that.
Yeah.
John, we'll let you finish off.
Sure.
Good morning, and before I start my report, I just want to echo, I note the comments here with the community policing role there, because we've been involved with them too, and I think it's a great thing, and we're very supportive and behind it wherever we can, so just wanted to mention that. Right into my report, it's for April-June quarter. During this quarter, our department focused on speeding, motorcycle safety, and commercial passenger vehicle safety as per the traffic safety calendar. Our department issued 57 tickets and 68 warnings during this time period. There were 83 investigations also conducted during this time by our department. Our department was also involved in community engagement activities. These activities were participating in social media, where a community peace officer spoke on commercial vehicle safety in a radio advertisement with the Safe Communities Facilitator. There were also joint operations conducted with the fire department and the RCMP to assist with traffic control and a motor vehicle collision, and to also assist RCMP with a joint investigation involving a commercial vehicle. Our department also conducted a joint traffic operation with the Brooks RCMP and the City of Brooks Community Peace Officers. And also our department is continuing to utilize the speed signs to help educate the motorists and to collect data when needed on traffic patterns relating to speeding. And also enclosed is a report providing further information on tickets versus warnings issued by our department for the county only, and the case files that we investigated for this quarter. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any questions for Hubie?
So John, when you're checking out just outside of the city for speeders, are they speeding coming into town or leaving town? What's the stats on that? Is it farmers coming and getting parts? I honestly am not sure if I could tell you there's more coming in or going out. That's a good question. And as far as the parts, I can say I've had a couple maybe, but I could say the speeding has been pretty much general population of all different ages and everything like that. So, and coming and going. So nothing I could give you more for specifics on that, but yeah. Sure. I just want to say, I think with the patrols out in the country, that's helped a lot with all of you participating in helping to keep the rural crime down. It's helped a lot to have you're visible out there. Yeah, it's good to see that. Yes.
So is the highway number one close to normal summer busy?
I would say so.
Good. Rob, you're, yeah?
Absolutely. We see, of course, massive increases on East 73 between Brooks and Kimber Park.
Yeah.
That has become extremely popular. I guess everyone has that idea of staying home, staying in Alberta sort of thing. And definitely Highway 1, you see the traffic increase on long weekends, and now the summer's here, there's an increase there as well. So
Good. That's good. Highway 36 has always been my barometer of economic conditions, because that's what I drive. And I was stopped once today, and there was another big unit that I didn't have to stop for. So I think I go, yes, it's always good to see this going on. So, well, thank you, lady and gentlemen. And we really appreciate all that you do for our communities above and beyond, and particularly the public relations that you're working on and learning about our communities. Very important. And if there's ever anything that we can help you out with, do ask. Sebastian.
We could use a speed for those that find drive through, it tells them how fast they're going.
Like, just anywhere?
Well, we have a big issue on Second Ave because there's a new daycare there, and a lot of people are coming off and speeding from the highway, and especially using the county road, so we're worried about that. And we only have about one sign. Our biggest issue is I'm still trying to find a company to get it cheaper. It's about $4,000 American.
We have some that we rotate around, don't we, John? Those signs?
Yes, we do have some, we call them speed spies, which are small portable that we can attach to a post. The other thing that we've been utilizing is towable. It's a bigger display sign that we can, with coordinating with Public Works, when they're not using it, place it at places where we find that there's concerns, and we'll keep them there for a little bit of a time period and see how it's going. And it's same as a speed spy. It's just a bigger display and pulled by a vehicle, but that's also another option or thing that we have for.
So maybe Sebastian, you can touch base with John,
Yes.
and I'm perhaps speaking out of turn saying that it's just something we use in the county, but I have seen it around Bassano coming in, so it could still be in the county if it has to be in the county.
Yeah.
Can bend the rules or something then. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Kendra. Have a good rest of the summer. So we have an in-camera Zoom type life-size meeting here, coming up. So we'll need a motion to move into camera, which Hubie has made. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.